That's, I think, the brilliance of Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom is the what we call emergent gameplay, where you were hit with a problem and the systems are so robust that you could use those systems to problem solve in a completely different way than the designer thought. And that, I think, is really special. Because I did something similar with the water temple where I found my way to get up to the temple without using the Zora flippers to swim up the waterfall.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So again, like that stuff is great. It's like interesting because I think when I think about it, like I've played every Zelda game since they came out, since I was 7 years old, and so when I think about them as a whole, like it's hard to divorce nostalgia from it. I think when we talked last time, we talked a little bit about Metroid Dread versus Super Metroid, and like how
Mm.
I hold Super Metroid as like a paragon of game design, and some people in the comments are like, he's crazy. Dread is amazing, and it's like, and I feel that way about Link to the Past, versus even Breath of the Wild. But like you were saying, like there is only one way to beat those dungeons. It's the way the designers design those dungeons. And Link to the Past, like that's how you beat the dungeon. And Tears of the Kingdom has, as we've just discussed, a myriad of ways. So it's like one would argue that that is the better game, is the game that gives you all these different options. But for me, there's something, I don't know, there's something comforting about like playing through a Rube Goldberg machine that's tightly designed and all the pieces interlock in a very specific way. What I hope they do is kind of what they're doing with Metroid, right? You have Prime, which are the 3D games, first person, and then you have Dread, which is the side-scrolling traditional style. So I would hope that maybe Zelda could do something like that. Because like the 2019 Link's Awakening is probably my second favorite Zelda game after A Link to the Past. And God, playing that in like its HD glory was amazing. So I would hope that like, man, if they ever remake Link Between Worlds, like, so if they give both flavors of Zelda games, I think that would be amazing if they have the bandwidth to ever do that. Is to give a more traditional top-down Zelda experience, and then these big epic sandbox games, every 6 years. But in between, to give a more traditional Zelda experience, I would be pretty stoked about that. Even if it is a remake, hey, Link's Awakening remake was friggin' awesome. So if that's what they do and they, remake Link Between Worlds, or they port Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time 3D to the Switch, I would be more than happy with that. I think Skyward Sword was definitely the weakest of the Zelda games, and so I could see that pivot, and I think Zelda is better for it. A game series as old as Zelda is needs this kind of reinvention, and sure, anytime you reinvent something, you're going to make some segment of the fan base unhappy. I wouldn't say I'm unhappy with the direction. I think it's awesome. I love, those games. Those games still exist. I can play them anytime I want. But, I also still do have my preferences as well.